Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will discuss the recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis one by one in details. First, the abductor paralysis. The abductor paralysis may be unilateral or it may be bilateral. In unilateral abductor paralysis, there is ipsilateral paralysis of all the intrinsic muscles of the larynx except cricothyroid. The paralyzed vocal cord will assume a median or paramedian position and will not move laterally on deep inspiration. Cord position on ideal or on performing fiber optic laryngoscopy. The position will be median or paramedian position of the paralyzed vocal cord. Secondly, the paralyzed vocal cord not moving laterally on deep inspiration. You can see here that this is the right and this is the left vocal cord. This is the right vocal cord which is paralyzed. This is the normal left vocal cord. This is the left vocal cord and this is the right vocal cord. Now in this case there is left vocal cord which is in the midline and it is having paralysis. Why median and or paramedian position of the vocal cord in unilateral recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis? There are different theories on the position of the vocal cord in vocal cord paralysis. The theories are Simmons theory or law. Second is the Wagner and Grossman hypothesis or theory. According to Simmons law, it states that in all progressive organic lesions, abductor fibers of the nerve, which are phylogenetically newer, are more susceptible and are first to be paralyzed as compared to the adductor fibers. Whereas the Wagner and Grossman hypothesis, this hypothesis is the most widely accepted theory. It states that complete paralysis of the recurrent laryngeal nerve results in the vocal cord being in paramedian because of an intact cricothyroid muscle, which adducts the vocal cord. When the superior laryngeal nerve is also paralyzed, the vocal cord will be in intermediate or cadaveric position because of loss of this adductive force. Now, this is the figure showing you the different positions of the glottis. This position is seen in phonation, and this is a resting position when the patient is having quiet respiration. This is the position of the vocal cords on deep force inspiration, and this is the position of the vocal cords on whispering. Position of the vocal cord in health and disease. First, the median position of the cord is the position when the vocal cord lies in the midline. This is seen in health when the patient phonates and in the disease when the patient is having recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis. In the paramedian position is the position in which there is a gap of 1.5 millimeter and in this is this paramedian position is seen in health when the patient is having strong whisper and in disease when the patient is having recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis. The intermediate or cadaveric position is seen when the cord position is there is 3.5 millimeter gap from the midline. This is the neutral position of the cricoarytenoid joint. Abduction and adduction takes place from this position. This is not seen in health. It is seen when there is combined paralysis, both recurrent laryngeal and superior laryngeal paralysis, or when there is death of the patient. The patient will have cadaveric or intermediate position of the vocal cords. In gentle abduction, the position of the cords will be 7 millimeter from the midline. And in health, it is seen in quiet respiration, and in disease, it is seen when there is paralysis of the adductors. And in full abduction, the cord position is, it will be 9.5 millimeter from the midline, and it is seen in health when there is deep inspiration of the vocal of the patient, and it is not seen in disease. Treatment of unilateral recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis or adductor paralysis. Generally, generally, no treatment is required as compensation occurs due to opposite healthy cord. Just assure the patient regarding improvement or recovery, which may occur in 6 to 12 months. Laryngoplasty type 1 may help if compensation does not occur. The most important part of the management in unilateral abductor paralysis is to exclude the bronchogenic carcinoma of the left lung in case of left recurrent laryngeal nerve paralysis. If such a case is diagnosed, carcinoma of the left lung is inoperable and only the palliative treatment is possible. This palliative treatment consists of radiotherapy alone, chemotherapy alone, or combination of radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So exclusion of the carcinoma of the left lung is very important in such cases of unilateral abductor paralysis, especially on the left side. Bilateral abductor paralysis. In this case, there is paralysis of the recurrent laryngeal nerves on both sides, right and left. Both recurrent laryngeal nerves are paralyzed in this case. Position of the cord on ideal or on FOL will be both vocal cords in median or paramedian position. No movement of the paralyzed cords laterally on deep inspiration. If it in median position, that is in the midline, acute respiratory obstruction and so acute emergency will be there. In such situation, save the life of the patient by intubation or by performing emergency tracheostomy. Now you can see on inspiration, the patient's cords are like this, and on phonation, the patient will have like this in the both vocal cords in the midline. Treatment. Tracheostomy as an emergency case to save the life of the patient or when the patient develops acute respiratory tract infection. Second is surgical procedure to widen the respiratory passage. In long-standing cases, permanent tracheostomy with a speaking valve may be required, and secondly, surgical procedures may also be required to widen the airway passage. This is tracheostomy tube with speaking valve. This figure shows different parts of the tracheostomy tube with speaking valve. This permanent tracheostomy with speaking valve is having certain advantages. For example, relief of the stridor will be there and good voice of the patient will be there if the patient is using permanent tracheostomy with speaking valve. But there is another disadvantage, that is the tracheostomy hole in the neck. This is the main disadvantage in these patients having permanent tracheostomy with speaking valve. Now, there are certain surgical procedures which may be used to lateralize the vocal cord or to widen the airway passage. There are advantages of these procedures. For example, relief of the stridor will be there, and in this way, airway obstruction will be relieved. Secondly, no tracheostomy hole in the neck will be there. but there is a disadvantage as well. That is, the voice quality is not good in these patients having this surgical procedure in which the vocal cord has been lateralized. Options for surgical procedures to widen the airway passages are: number one, Woodman's operation; second, arytenoid, arytenoidopexy. In Woodman's operation, arytenoidectomy is done first, followed by cord fixation in a lateral position by switching. In arytenoidopexy, fixation of the arytenoid is performed in lateral position. Third, laser cordectomy. With carbon dioxide laser, removal of the one vocal cord by using carbon dioxide. There is another procedure, that is the re-innervation procedure. It may be utilized to innervate the paralyzed posterior cricoarytenoid muscle by implanting a nerve muscle pedicle of sternohyoid or omohyoid muscle with its nerve supply from ansa hypoglossal side. This may give benefit to the patient. Then superior laryngeal nerve paralysis, or you can say this is the adductor paralysis. It may again may be unilateral or it may be bilateral. In unilateral, there will be ipsilateral paralysis of the cricothyroid muscle, leading to loss of adduction on the affected side. That is, secondly, there will be ipsilateral anesthesia of the larynx above the vocal cord. Cord position on ideal or on FOL, there will be askew position of the glottis as anterior commissure is rotated to the healthy side. Second, shortening of the cord with loss of tension. Third, paralyzed cord appears wavy due to loss of tension. And fourth, there may be flapping of the cord. Flapping means up and down movement of the vocal cord. Up movement during expiration and down movement of the vocal cord during inspiration. This is the askew position of the vocal cords, and this position will be seen on inspiration in these patients. Treatment. Number one is the speech therapy by speech therapist. Second, direct laryngoscopy and injection therapy to medialize the cord. The material which may be used for injection, it may be collagen or it may be Teflon. The collagen is preferred as there is no brisk granulomatous reaction and no stridor will be there in collagen injection. This collagen is injected submucosally. The Teflon, on the other hand, is not preferred because it may cause brisk granulomatous reaction and it may cause stridor. It is injected deeply. Ishiki type 1 thyroplasty. In this procedure, a wedge-shaped block of celastic is inserted through a window made in the thyroid ala to move the vocal process of the arytenoid medial. The fourth procedure which may be done in these patients is nerve anastomosis of recurrent nerve with phrenic nerve or ansa hypoglossal nerve. Bilateral adductor paralysis. This is the least common condition, and there is paralysis of bilateral cricothyroid muscles. There will be anesthesia of the larynx above the vocal cords on both sides as well. Cord position on ideal or on FOL, both vocal cords in abducted position, and so there will be no adduction on phonation. This is the normal position of the vocal cords during phonation. But in a patient having bilateral adductor paralysis, the vocal cords will be having this position. The vocal cords position on phonation will be like this. Treatment. Number one is the tracheostomy with cuffed tube to prevent secretions to go down into the lower respiratory tract. And secondly, to remove secretions from the lower respiratory tract. Second, nasogastric tube is inserted for feeding purpose. Third, epiglottopaxy to close the laryngeal inlet to prevent lungs from repeated aspirations. It is a reversible procedure. And the last one is the sometimes total laryngectomy may be required to prevent the patient from bronchopneumonia. Then combined or complete laryngeal paralysis. It may be again unilateral or it may be bilateral. In unilateral combined or complete laryngeal paralysis, there is paralysis of all muscles of the larynx on one side except interarytenoid, which also receives nerve supply from the opposite side. Chord position on ideal or on FOL, the paralyzed vocal cord will lie in cadaveric position, that is 3.5 millimeter from the midline. There will be no adduction on phonation and no abduction on deep inspiration. There will be a gap between the two vocal cords. Treatment number one is the speech therapy. It may help the healthy cord to compensate the function of the paralyzed cord, and so the healthy cord may cross the midline to meet the paralyzed cord to produce voice. Second, procedures to medialize the paralyzed cord. In uncompensated cases, to produce some voice and to prevent aspiration. We may inject Teflon paste lateral to the paralyzed cord, or sometimes we may perform Ishiki thyroplasty type 1. Bilateral combined paralysis. In this case, this is a rare condition. Both recurrent and superior laryngeal nerves on both sides are paralyzed. As all muscles of the larynx are paralyzed, so both vocal cords lie in the cadaveric position. There is total anesthesia of the larynx as well. Treatment is tracheostomy to remove secretions from the lower respiratory tract and to remove the inhaled material. Secondly, feeding gastrostomy to prevent aspiration and maintain nutrition. And third, epiglottopaxy is an operation in which the epiglottis is folded backwards and fixed to the arytenoids to prevent aspiration into the lungs. It's a reversible procedure. Then vocal cord plication may be performed. In this case, first laryngophysiology is done, then mucosa of the true and false vocal cords is removed. After this, these two vocal cords are approximated with sutures. This procedure can be reversed when required. And the last one is the total laryngectomy to prevent repeated aspiration and lung infections. Diversion procedure. In this procedure, trachea is separated at third or fourth tracheal rings. The upper segment, that is the laryngotracheal segment, is anastomosed to the esophagus so that aspirated material should go to the esophagus. The lower tracheal end is brought out as tracheostome for breathing purpose. Thank you so much.